discuss GlideRecords today. Um, and a GlideRecord, is a class that we will be using in ServiceNow. Um, and this class we'll be using to do database operations. Database operations as in, all the CRUD capabilities that you have into your databases, in your relational databases. If you want to do certain, queries of that sort, which will enable you get data from the database or push data to database, update it, delete it. So all these operations that you want to do on a database within ServiceNow, you can do it using GlideRecord, right? So GlideRecord will be, it will give you a data set depending upon the queries that you um, apply on the GlideRecord itself. There are different methods available in GlideRecord that will help you put different filters, different queries, different, you can join tables. You can get data by joining different tables, and you can put dynamically. You can put different queries to filter out data, um, stuff like that. There are different methods we'll be looking into and finding out what we can do using the GlideRecord. Right now, this GlideRecord will be utilized in many areas within ServiceNow. This GlideRecord will be used mostly used server side, but sometimes you'll be using it client side as well for some methods. So you'll be using it into, let's say, you'll be using it into business rules. You'll be using into script includes. You'll be using it into somewhere into, let's say, in workflow as well, to get data as and when required. For example, if you want to populate certain data from certain tables onto a form, and you want to pull out that data from the table, which is storing the data for your application. So you write a GlideRecord query, and then you pull out the information from the database and show it onto the form, right? Um, you can use it in the
So
UI.
what's
Yeah.
the thumb rule is we have to use glide record when we have to do the data operation only, or I mean when to use glide record is when we have to have an operation from the data for the data
Yeah,
only.
any data related operation, if you have to do with ServiceNow, then you will be using GlideRecord. See, the tables that we created earlier, for example, the attendees, equipments, or marketing events. Now, programmatically, if you want to get out data from the attendees table, or you want to insert a record into the attendees table, right? So that you have to do using the GlideRecord. So GlideRecord is the tool that you will be using to insert data, update data, delete data from attendee table, or retrieve data from the attendees table, including different filters that you might have. One use case is, for example, see, if we are onto the attendees list of records right now, and I have 52,376 records available in this attendees table in this instance. And if I want to filter out um, all the records into this attendees table, which does not have the email as empty, right? Uh, so here I go and do email is not empty and run the query, right? So using this operation, what I am doing is I am finding out a set of data from the table attendees which is not having empty email IDs. Now, how do you get this programmatically done? So uh, you have to write a GlideRecord query, a GlideRecord, you have to implement a GlideRecord method that will apply the query, the filter that you have applied here, and fetch all these 5 data from the database, right? So this is one use case where you will be using it. So if you remember, we talked about these dynamic filters or queries here that whenever we are playing with the list of records and we apply different filters, and by right clicking it and copying the query, we are able to copy this type of query, right? So these are the filters that you will be using in the GlideRecord to fetch this kind of data, the 5 records from the database. So this is one use case where you are retrieving selected data set or a small data set or a larger data set from the table to get the relevant data of your need. So whatever you are needing, you are trying to get that data using that GlideRecord. Now that's one case. Now another case would be, for example, let's take one case where you are updating records into the equipment request table, and whenever you add a equipment request into the table, um, let's say the cost of this equipment is $1,000, and you are pushing this equipment to the London LUG marketing event. Now, whenever you push a record into the equipment request table, you also want to add this, amount into the total cost of the marketing event, right? So what you are doing is you are inserting record into one table, which is equipment request, and along with it, you are inserting this that amount into the marketing event table as well, right? So you are updating the marketing event table, cascading the effect from the equipment request table into the marketing event table along with it, right? So this is a use case where while inserting a record into the table, you are updating another table which is a related table to this table, and the update that you are doing on the marketing event table, you will be doing by using GlideRecord function, GlideRecord class somewhere. Make sense? So one area we saw that we can retrieve the data by using the different filters we applied on the list of records. Another is that we can update the data into one table or another table which is related to the primary table here, and the update that we do is done using the GlideRecord class, right? So these are the use cases: updating, creating, deleting, or retrieving data from the tables. You will be using GlideRecord, right? Now, UI action we talked about. A UI action we can have a GlideRecord into. We'll try to find out. We will try to write certain UI action that will have GlideRecord into it, right? Now, to practice GlideRecords, I'll suggest you to use one area within the application navigator, which is a scripts background. So if you go to application navigator and type in a scripts background, you will see this module here, which is quite useful for development activities. You can run your scripts, mostly the server-side scripts here, and execute it and see the result, right? So it's kind of a developer console for the developers, or it can be this is basically a console where you can run your queries, uh, primarily the server-side queries here, server-side functions here, and validate the code that you are writing, number one. And number two, if you have to update tables or if you have to run a script that will play with the data updated, so without going into the table, you can run your query here and get that data or the table updated, right? So this is quite powerful, console for developers to have it here. Now, how we can use it? I'm going to use one example here, one GlideRecord example here, and then I'm going to show you the results of it. Now, to use, so this is a GlideRecord example, and we talked about GlideRecord as a Java class which we will be using to retrieve data from database. Now, the syntax for using the GlideRecord is very simple, right? You have to create an object of the GlideRecord class that we are talking about, and when you create an object of the GlideRecord class, you have to specify which table this class will be referring to, right? For example, this could be an incident table, or this could be a marketing event table, right? Whatever table you are referring to, um, or any other table. It could be a user table, it could be, any other table into the database. Now, by doing this line, you are instantiating the GlideRecord class for the incident table, right? And you are assigning this GlideRecord class, the object of this GlideRecord class into the target variable here, right? Unless you do a target.query, you do not get any value into this target variable. So when you do this target.query, you actually get records from the table, which is the incident table in this case, and your target variable will be filled with the data from the database and from the incident table, right? Now, in this case, since we did not apply any filter, we are getting all the records from the table, right? So by just doing target.query, we got the complete data set from the incident table, and this target variable will be filled with all the records available into the incident table, right? Now that you have a data set having all the records from the incident table, you can put a loop here, and then, if you want to print or if you want to get values from the selected columns of the table, you can print that, or you can use those variables here, use those field values here, right? And this while loop that we have printed, so this is just an incrementer. Target.next is an incrementer to retrieve to traverse through the records that you have into the table. So it's like it will take you from the start of the record until the last record of the data set that you get into the target variable, right? So usually you will see the code that is written, usually you will see that, the code will be written in this fashion. You query the database, if you have to apply certain filters or certain queries, then, you know, you can add target dot add, let's say encoded query is being added, right? So some query. So let's say I copied some query from uh, the list of records. I built a query there, and then I am copying that query. Let's I think I have, yeah, this one. So let's assume this was the query that I want to implement. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll, somehow write this target.add encoded query, put the query that I copied. So this time when I do target.query, I'll have a smaller data set which will qualify the email is not empty condition, right? So if I do not write this statement of add encoded query, I'll get the full data set from the table, right? Otherwise, you can write your queries. You can, if you want to join your table with another table, or if you want to put an AND query or query or something else, you apply those queries or filters here before making this query statement, right? And you will get a smaller data set, and you can play with the data set that you get from that.
How, where you save that query? That email empty.
Uh, this query, see, let's go to the incident table, for example.
Actually, I did not understand how you refer to that query.
Yeah,
Actually, the name
uh,
by
uh,
using the name.
yeah. I'll go back to it. I'll come to it. For example, see, I am onto the incident list of records right now, right? And can you see the data filter that is applied on this incident list of record?
All active is true. Yeah.
Yeah, all, and within all you are doing active equals true, right?
Mm.
So if you are asked to apply this kind of query, what will you do? So pseudo code, apply the query here, right? This is pseudocode, and what will you do is target dot something. So if you do not know that the function for that is add encoded query or something, so I'll do something like target dot apply filter, and then I'll have to do
Active.
active equals true, something like this, right? So This is not actual one, right? This is pseudo one, just to understand what we have to do. So apply dot, target dot apply filter active equals true. So this is what we should be doing, right? Now this is not the correct way. ServiceNow will not understand this what we have written here, right? So for that, what we have to do is we have to use the method that is present in ServiceNow, target dot add encoded query. So this is a method, and within this method we have to apply this filter and the filter cannot be used as active equals true, right? What you have to do is you have to right click here and copy query from here, right? It says copy to clipboard. Now we come back here and put the query that you have copied, right? So this one gives you active equals true. What if you apply more filters to it? See, I do active is true, and I do, let's say created, and I'll do after, and let's say November 1st, and I'm going to run it, and I'm going to copy this query now. Now see, the query has changed, and there is a defined syntax, which we do not understand, or which we cannot generate by ourselves, right? So we have to rely on the query that we generate from the list of records, and then we copy from there. So this time what I have to do is I have to copy this, go in here, paste it, and now by applying this, I think I did one extra brace here, curly brace. All right, so now this will give you a smaller data set, and this will apply the filter where you are doing active equals true and created on is greater than 1st of November.
Correct only, Rahul, that one.
Sorry?
Hello? That one is correct only. That single quote it ends with the braces is
All right.
okay. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
correct.
yeah, that's correct. So
Yeah, correct.
this is from the date generate
Yeah,
function.
yeah, correct. Yeah,
Anyways,
correct.
so this is how you will apply that. Now let's leave it for now. I'm getting rid of this. Let's leave it for now. I'm copying this, and let's go back to this run script,
Mm.
right? And put it here, right? Now, if I put it here and I do run a script and I'm doing it in global scope, right? So let's see what it happens, what it does. I'm running it. It does, it does say script completed in a scope global, right? Which means that the script was completed, but there is no output for us to see, right? The script is
Mm.
right. We can see that the script is right. It executed. There was no runtime exception that we saw from it, but there is no output to see at all, right? So,
Yes.
so, so if we want to see the output from it, we have to use something that can print these values that we get from the database on the screen, right? So, so for that we will have to use something known as a method from um, Glide System class, GS class. Again, GS is a server-side class that we have, which is used to, you know, um, so we use one method from it earlier, add info message, add error message. These were methods that we used while we were doing GForm, right? So GS will be using, so from the GS we'll be using print just to see whatever output that we can generate using this data set from the incident table, right? Now when we do gs.print, what do we actually want to print, right? We can print, you know, let's say I am going to print very simple hello from here, right? So, and I'm going to execute it. When I do, I see so many hellos coming in, right? So the number of times I get a record from the table, I'll be seeing this hello printed. And that is because we put a while loop on the data set that we received from the incident table, right? So let's say if this incident table has 30 qualifying records in this data set, so this GS will be printed 30 times, right? But this is not the actual use case for us right now. I don't want to print hello here, right? So one more thing, if so to see how many records I have, so I'm going to do, let's say where I equals 0, and I'm going to do,
I
let's
plus
say,
plus.
yeah. So at the end of it, I'm going to print gs dot
GS.
print, and I'll print, let's say I,
Yes. Number of records.
and I'm getting rid of this. So when I execute this, it says that 118 records are there into the dataset that we retrieved from the incident table. Now,
Yes.
so, but from the incident table, I don't want to print this I don't want to print anything else. I want to print all the incident numbers from this table, right? And their, respective states. So what I can do
Okay.
is, I can go into the while loop and I can do gs dot print, and I'm going to do, see, I know that the field name for this number field is number itself, all in a small case, and for state is state, all in a small case. So I have to print the number and the state onto the screen. So let's say if I want to put a custom text which says incident number equals, and then I'm going to, append the incident number here. So for that, remember, the data set we have is into the variable which is target. So data set is the target variable. So any column that we want to reference from the target data set has to be used like, target, and then you have to do dot operator, and then you have to refer to the number field, right? So we have to do gs dot print incident number equals, and then we are appending the target dot number, so which will ensure that the incident number that we get into the target data set is stored into this, is appended to this string that we are building. And then I'm going to add some more text to it. Has state equals, let's make sure that we have the spelling written correct. Looks like the spelling is correct. Now I'm going to copy this. So what I did gs.print incident number equals target dot number plus has state
Okay.
equals target dot state. So it will print a string such, similar to incident number 1 has state open, something like this. Now let's execute this. When I execute this, all the incident numbers from the table, right, has been printed here. You see that? Is it clear?
Yes.
So you can now
Yes.
retrieve field value for incident number from the table, from the dataset that you retrieved, and the value from the state here as well. But you might question, why do we have the state codes as 237 here, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because on the form we do not have 237 etc. here, right? But when we retrieve using query, we get 7327 etc. Any idea why we would have this here in form of number codes?
I think we have to use that column target dot state dot value, not ID.
Oh, but we didn't use ID. We used, target dot state. And I think you are partially right. You should, we should be doing the display text instead of the value text. So we'll be doing, um, there is one function which is target, uh, that is gs dot get display value. So doing this will give you, unless I am doing some, case issues, this should print the right value on the screen. Or get display
Okay.
value, I think the method name is incorrect slightly. So let me see. Get, or D is small. Alright, so I'm going to do this. Let me,
It's a case sensitive one.
yeah, this is case sensitive. So we have to,
Small.
alright, get display value D is capital.
No, he's saying not working.
Okay, let me see. Where is that? Or I would have that into my script here. Oh, sorry. I used it in a wrong way. So I have to use it like this. Sorry about that. Get display value. Sorry about that. I did it wrong. So we have to do target dot state dot get display value. And now I copy this and I run this, and it now gives us the correct state, not the coded states, right? So whatever display value this field will have, right? Because if you go into this form, incident form, go to the state field, and now if I do configure choices, oh, not this one. If I go to configure dictionary, it will show me the values associated to the display text that we have. Let's scroll down. You can see it here. We have the state names available, new access, and the values associated with it is new has a value of -5, SS has a value of -4, authorized has a value of -3. Likewise, all other values that we see here, the values are, printed here. So if we do not use the get display value, we will get those codes coming in as per the data it is stored into the table, right? So if we use the get display value, that will show us the correct data there. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So this was the simplest form of query that we did on GlideRecord. Um, let me go
But
to,
where we are storing this script now? I mean, this is the editor, right? We just wrote the query and we display the record.
right.
So now you want to apply that one where you are going to apply.
Okay. So let's say, mm, see, I told you to apply this. We can apply it onto various places. Like, let's say if you want to apply this onto UI action, you can apply it on UI action. If you have to apply it on business rule, which is the trigger. And now one example of trigger I said is, whenever equipment request table is updated, you have to update the marketing request table uh, with the cost, right? So this is one business rule. If you have to apply this, so what you have to do is, you know, you have to go into business rules, and when you write business rules within the script section, you have to paste the same script that we wrote on the script editor, script background. You have to go and put that into the script section on the business rule. So this is one use case. Either you do it on UI action, you do it on business rule, you do it on workflows, you do it any other component that we have onto sometimes you have to do it client side as well. The client side glide operations which is permissible, you can do that there as well, right? So for example, if the same operation of retrieving data from the database, I want to do it on a business rule or a trigger, I'll come back to here and then I'll put my script here within the business rule here. And this business rule will be executed whenever this business rule will be executed, this query will be executed and do whatever operation it is supposed to do. Since this is a retrieval query, this might not make sense to have it here within the business rule. Instead, you might find it useful if you have to put an insert query or an update query here within the business rule, because that will make sense. Retrieving data using a trigger does not make a good use case for us here. So will not be using here that query, but we can do insert query or update query here within the business rule, right? Now another case could be, let's say, if we are so let's say I am going to put a UI action onto the marketing event form, right? And that marketing event UI action is going to show me the total number of marketing events planned as of now. Show total events. So this is my use case. This is a random use case that I am building, right? And so what I'll do is I'll get the table name. My table name is x underscore 25488, x underscore 25488 underscore marketing, right? And so I'm going to, or let's say gs dot is something wrong. Can I not use gs here? Let me see if I'm able to use this. Total events equals I. Something like this. So I'm querying the glide record on the marketing event table, getting the list of all the records available into the table, and then counting it. And finally I'm going to print the number of events that I have, and I'm going to submit this. and I made it a form button, so it will be available onto the marketing events form. So show total events now shows me the total number, shows me as a form button here, because I made this UI action as a form button, so I can see this show total events as a button here. When I click this, alright, looks like this UI action has some issues. Let me quickly see if I did the table name correct or something. Something is wrong there. Hmm, that's correct. Huh? Maybe the field name is different. So this is correct. Um, UI action. Let me see if this makes some logging into the log. When I do this, we go into the marketing event, show total events. Alright, so gs.debug I should be using. I just wanted to print it into the logs and see if my code is getting executed. So I'm going to do gs.debug, marketing events, gs.debug, and I update it. It did. Alright, I'm going to see into the system log. Okay, alert is not defined, so it will not take alert into the UI action. This is saying me that alert is something that UI action will not identify. So I'll have to use it differently. Marketing events, UI action. Sorry. GS is also, GS doesn't seem to be available here. For Yes,
Then how come GS debug
yeah,
work?
GS is
How
available,
come
so I can print this total events
when you click on GS dot, it does not give you that what we
intelligence, right?
call
Intelligence, you are saying.
intelligence. Yeah.
It is available in the script editor. For some reason, it is not available here. We'll have to see why it is not coming into this. So I'm going to add info message and update it.
Sorry, I need to you put I think you put 1. Hello?
Did I do wrong?
I have to put I instead of something you put 1. Yeah, okay.
GS is available here. Go to marketing events. And then I have to stay on the form. I didn't stay on the form, so I have to anyhow. So it is now showing you the 17 records from the table.
Yes.
Right, so this is one vague example of how you will be using GlideRecord onto
Yes,
different
okay.
different areas of the application. Right, so by doing this, what I did is I counted the number of records available into the marketing event form, and on the click of this button, I was able to show that this is the number of records available into the database, right? Um, I thought I would be using a pop-up message by doing an alert, but in UI action I cannot use that alert here, so I did not get that value here. But then by using the gs.add info message, I was able to put an info message on the form that shows me the number of records available into the table. Now this I created as a UI action or as a form button. There could be other options available, like you could use it as a form link, or you can use it as context menu, right? Or you can use it as list choice, list link, etc. So if I do form context menu or form link and update it, so the same option of show total events will be appearing into the two areas onto the marketing event. So if you go here, you open a new existing record or you open a new record. So you'll be able to see the show total events here. You will be able to see the form link here, or you will be able to see the total show total events as a cascading menu option here available, right? So the type of UI action you choose, you know, when you check those checkboxes available, you will see those UI action coming into different areas of the application. Now you can choose to remove this one but leave the link here and the cascading menu here. So you have to go configure the UI action accordingly, and from the UI action you have to remove the form button, and you will leave the context menu or form link and update it. Now when you go back on the form, now the show total events button has disappeared. Oh, sorry, that's on the same record. So now you go back to the marketing events, click on the Dallas LUG, the show total events has disappeared from this form button, but is available into a link and is available into the cascading menu. And it does the same operation. So if you do show total events, it will do the same operation and will show the number of records available into here, and will show this message, add info message, right? If you do the same UI action here in the link, it will do the same operation. So meaning same UI action is available in different forms on different areas of the application. According to your need, you can customize your form and put those UI actions on the different areas of the application. Right. So this was another use case. We did data retrieval using GlideRecord today. I need to stop here. Tomorrow we'll be looking into different other methods available into GlideRecord, and We'll try to implement using business rule. We'll try to implement it using a valid use case into the marketing events application scope, using a UI action, and we'll try to use glide record in client side scope as well, right? So we understand how we use the glide record into the client side script, and then we'll be doing the server side scripts as well. That's for tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.